Welcome to Crafty Little Beach. This is Julie. Today I have a Dollar Tree DIY for you. For this spring DIY, I'm going to use this sign that I actually got on clearance at Target Dollar Spot. But you know what? It's the same exact size as the ones from the Dollar Tree. I just liked the lighter wood frame on this one, so I'm going to use this one instead because I've used all of those from my stash from the Dollar Tree, but they do have those in the Dollar Tree frame as well. I'm just going to start here. I tried to remove the tag from the back, and I'm going to change out where the hanger is because I'm going to make this a horizontal sign. What I want to do is do a little wall garden. I wanted this to be a hanging piece. So as you can see, the sign is 12 inches. So I'm just going to find the center so I can center this. And I find the trick of these little Dollar Tree hangers that are not sawtooth is to kind of hot glue them in place first. That way it doesn't move around when you're trying to put those little tiny screws back in there. And it just makes it a lot easier. And you don't have to, use another hanger. For the fence on this one, I'm going to use 2 of these little Dollar Tree pallet boards. And for the garden gate, I found this sign from the Dollar Tree that I think is so pretty. It says, "Welcome to our garden." It's white, it's distressed, it's got flowers all over, and I thought it was the perfect shape for a garden gate. So I'm just going to remove the hanger. It was like a little hanging tag. And I'm going to use that as the gate. And then these pieces can be the fence on each side. And I want it to be like a 3D piece where it sticks out. So it's okay that the frame is a little bit smaller than what I have planned. I'm just going to use some painter's tape to kind of try to protect my frame here. What I'm going to do is paint a very abstract sky on here. So I thought like the top half could be the sky, the bottom half could be the grassy garden filled with flowers. And so I really only have to paint half of it blue. I'm just going to go ahead and drag that down. I do want pretty good coverage. I found that sometimes these paintbrushes can lose more bristles than they have in them, it seems. So I was trying to make sure I didn't get any bristles stuck on there. But this is how that part looked. The painter's tape did a pretty good job, except it kind of prevented me from getting all the way in the corners here. So I'm just going to kind of fill those in. I do want it to be a sunny day, but I want a little bit of a look of clouds in there. So I'll show you how I end up doing it. First, I kind of just sponge on a little bit more blue, and then I use one of those stencil daubers from the Dollar Tree, and I go on with some white acrylic paint to make some puffy little clouds here in the sky. I didn't want it to look too cartoonish though, so I tried to blend mine in with some of the blue that I used originally to make some little fluffy clouds there in the sky, but I don't want it to be too white. I just want it to be more subtle. So I kind of go back between the two colors. When that dried, I found that you couldn't really see the clouds much at all. So I'm going to go in here for a second coat of white. This time maybe not distressing as much of it as away, but I do want to blend it too. So just using that original blue color that I used and the makeup sponge and just blending it until I'm happy with it. Again, I want it to be very abstract. For the fence, I'm going to make this fence white because the gate is white, so I thought that would make sense for a little welcome to our garden sign. And so I'm just going to paint these white. I want them almost to look like a whitewash because that's kind of the vibe that that sign is giving. So I'm just going to do a thin coat of white acrylic all over these. And I'll also come in and distress these a little bit because as you can see, that welcome to our garden sign is slightly distressed as well. I just want a good coat of white all over these. I don't really have to worry about the back on these. You're not going to be able to see them, but I do try to do any of the edges of the palette board that you might be able to see. I paint that white as well. A very light distress. I like to come in from the ends like that. Gives it a great distressing, but also all over just slightly. And then I go back with a baby wipe to wipe off the excess. And it just kind of gave it a little bit of an aged look, which goes with that original sign a little bit. Now, to kind of tie it in together, I'm going to slightly distress this one as well. It's almost distressed more with a gray, but I thought if I added a little bit of distressing with some Antique Wax by Waverly, it would make it blend in and match a little bit better. So there it is, our little welcome to our garden fence. And now we can work on this a little bit. I still wasn't happy with those clouds, so I went over with a little bit more of that original blue, sponged that on until I just got a little less prevalent cloud. I want it to be very subtle back there. And then I'm going to have to figure out a way to attach this all together. I thought I was going to need some pieces to bump out some of the pieces. I want the gate to be level with the fence. So I'm going to try some of these little mini Jenga blocks from the Dollar Tree. And I found if you put them on their side like that, it was the perfect depth. So I'm going to attach 2 up here for the top of the garden gate. And I'm also going to do 2 here at the bottom because it needs to stick out enough where it is flat level with the fence, just like that. The fence has that little thing on the bottom, the brace and the frame, so it needs to stick out a little bit too. And so I'm going to use one of the Jenga blocks, but this time laying flat. And that gave it the right little support there, and I can just connect that part to the sign. So I'm going to do the same thing here in reverse on the other side with one more of the Jenga blocks. Now that I have those attached, I can go ahead and add my grassy scene. I'm going to use Dollar Tree's reindeer moss for the grass in our garden. Since you will be able to see through the fence a little bit, I wanted it to have like a green grassy look. So I'm just going to cover this little quarter and this little quarter over here with some reindeer moss. So half of it sky, half of it moss, and we'll also add flowers. I want flowers just coming out of the fence, flowers above the fence, so it really looks like you're entering a garden. And that little bit of a detail of just adding that moss back there, I think really helps. For the flowers, I want to use some smaller ones. These are the Tweedia. I found that, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, that's how it's spelled, but they have many different colors and styles on these. So I thought I would do some pink ones. We have some little lavender flowers. These are also the Tweedia, and see how they're like 2 different colors together, like purple and yellow. And I want it to be kind of random what flowers are where. And so I thought I would add a few more colors in here so I don't repeat. So that is the white Tweedia, and just kind of whatever I could find. I like the idea of them sticking out like that on top of the fence, so you're seeing the garden actually overtaking the fence. I think that's really pretty for spring. And a little hot glue there together with the moss is going to hold these in place. And since this is a standing sign, I do want to make sure everything is going to stay when I hang this on the wall. So just making sure everything is going to work like this. I think that's enough flowers for now. I'm going to go ahead and attach the little garden gate, our little welcome to our garden sign. And you have to make sure that your moss is not in the way for your Jenga block there, but I just put hot glue on the frame and on the Jenga block. So it will glue it to both of those items and line it up with the bottom of the sign we use for the garden gate. Now, if you can't find this sign for the middle for the garden gate, you could always just make a garden gate out of another one of these little pallet boards really easily, or just have the fence go straight across. Now, I thought it'd be fun to have some of the individual flowers like kind of coming through the fence like that too. I'm also going to add a little bit of this lavender. This is not the lavender from Dollar Tree. This is the lavender from Walmart, but it's pretty close to the lavender from Dollar Tree. I'm going to stick a few of those behind the gate, and then just using hot glue, some of these flowers that I had extra, I can just kind of have those coming through. I just put dots of hot glue on the stems of everything and kind of put it through the fence like it's kind of overgrowing the fence. And maybe a purple flower here, maybe a pink one right over here. So colorful and fun for spring. I really love how this turned out and the little like 3D nature of it. I think it's so pretty. You could actually stand this up if you wanted to make a base for it, or I think it looks really fun hanging on the wall. Here's a little close-up view of our little garden fence, our little flower garden. I think it's a really fun DIY for spring, and this was also a really fun DIY to put together. Isn't that so colorful and cheerful?